I'm Michelle from Atlantic Physical Therapy. I'm going to record a little bit of a yoga flow that focuses on relaxing and releasing your pelvic floor muscles. So here we go. So I'm going to have you start in a child's pose. If you're not familiar with that, you want to put your big toes touching, knees apart, and start to sit back into your hips. Then just walk your hands out forward. Let your forehead touch the ground, or if it's easier, let your cheek touch the ground. And you just want to start by just breathing and just paying attention to your breath. So as you're lying there, just notice where your breath is going and where you feel it. You may feel it in your back, in your chest. Wherever it is, just notice. And just try at this point not to really manipulate your breath or change it at all, but just see what's happening, where it's going, where you feel it, and maybe where you don't feel it as you start to settle in. Now, if it's really uncomfortable for you to have your knees apart like this, and if you feel any pinchiness in your hips, you can do the same thing with your knees together. So whatever feels good for you, knees apart or knees closer together. All right, now that we've noticed where our breath is going, let's try to send it down a little bit deeper into our low back, into our butt cheeks. I like to imagine that my butt cheeks are balloons, and you want to send air all the way down to them to relax your pelvic floor, like you're inflating those balloons. So inhale, inflate the balloons. Exhale, let the balloons go limp. And you'll also feel while you're doing this that your back fills up with air, your low belly fills up with air. Our pelvic floor runs parallel to our diaphragm, so deep breathing and extending it down with a deep breath helps to relax our pelvic floor and give it a little bit of a stretch. And try to slow down your breath here. Take about 4 seconds to inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And now take about 5 seconds to exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep breathing like this at your own pace. Exhaling slower than you're inhaling helps stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is our body's relaxation response, which also helps with pain relief of our pelvic floor and to relax it. So we're doing 2 things here. We're stretching it with our breath, and we're relaxing your entire nervous system. Perfect. And throughout this little flow today, try to stick with this nice, slow breath. All right. So let's start moving a little bit more. So reach your hands out, grip the ground, and start to come up into a tabletop position. And that's when your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. Good. Now we're going to come into some cat-cows here to further stretch our pelvic floor and move our back. And we move with our own breath here. So we're going to inhale into a cow pose. Our back is arching. I'm going to show you from the side too. Our back is arching, our head lifts. We send our chest through our arms, our tailbone goes up. And exhale, we round through our tailbone, push the ground away, chin comes to chest. and try to expel all the air in your belly. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. Try to exaggerate each motion as much as possible as you're moving through. So really squeeze your shoulder blades together when you're in that cow, and really push your shoulder blades apart when you're in your cat. Let your head get heavy. And just notice what your butt and what your low back are doing. You should feel an opening through your pelvic floor with your butt. And keep breathing at your own pace here. Let's take 3 more in each direction. Beautiful. Last one. And then just meet me back in tabletop position with a neutral spine. So somewhere between that cat and the cow on the side. It looks like that. All right, start to tuck your toes under and rock back onto your feet. We're just stretching out our feet for a second before we move on. Beautiful. And you're just feeling a nice stretch, and then come back to that tabletop position. And I want you to kick your right leg long behind you. Like that. And just notice, peek down at your toe, at your right toes, and make sure they're pointed towards the ground and not turned up to the side. Your hips should be nice and level here. I like to pretend I'm balancing something on my back. So the tendency is to, turn yourself up. You want to dial your hips down so they're nice and even. And from here, we're going to start working our glutes a little bit. So we're going to just pulse our right leg up, keeping our back neutral for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, keep going, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. And now out to the side for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to hold it out here. Swing our foot around to the outside of our right hand and start to rock back and forth. Good. And as you rock, try to make each one a little bit juicier and more exaggerated. This is a great place to use yoga blocks. I don't have 2 in front of me right now, but you can put them right here, and it might be a little bit easier if you're not as flexible. And if you don't have yoga blocks, you can really use books, anything a little bit more supportive. Good. Rock back and forth. We're doing 2 things here. We're warming up our hamstrings on our right leg and our hip flexors on our left leg. Good. We're going to pause in that forward position and then rise up to a kneel. Beautiful. Start to tuck your tailbone under, pull in your abdominal muscles, and hinge forward a little bit. Begin to energetically, without actually moving your right foot back, squeeze it back towards your left knee. And that helps to engage your muscles a little bit more, and you'll start to feel a stretch in the front of your left hip here. Notice your breath. Notice what's happening when we're uncomfortable or in pain. Sometimes we hold our breath and guard. The best way to practice not doing that is to notice it and just come back to your breath. that same breath we practiced in the beginning. Nice slow inhale, nice slow, and even longer exhale. Beautiful. We're going to deepen that stretch by raising our left arm up and over. And try to lean back a little bit here, but keep your belly engaged. You'll start to feel it even more so in the front of that left hip. Beautiful. We're just going to, with this flow, focus on stretching the front of our hips, the back of our hips, and our pelvic floor in all directions. Balance everything out. Good. Return back to that kneel. And then we're going to start to sit back for our hamstring stretch. Another great place to use blocks. If you're not as flexible and you can't touch the floor, you can always bring your hands to blocks right here. And another place to check your breath. Are you breathing? Make sure you're breathing nice and slow. There's no advantage of really pushing on a stretch to its maximum capacity. It's okay to do it just a light or moderate stretch. It's more important to keep breathing throughout. Beautiful. And keep your toes drawn up here, and it gets a little bit of that sciatic nerve that runs around your butt and your calves. Good. To rebend that front knee, plant your hands to the inside of your right leg, circle back. You're back in your tabletop. Let's do a cat and a cow to just reset. Perfect. Find your neutral tabletop. Send your left leg long behind you. And we're going to pulse up again for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then out to the left, 10, 9, keep going. The reason we're working these muscle groups is because our pelvic floor and our glutes are big core stabilizers. So we just want to make sure the muscles that are stabilizing you are actually working and firing well. Good. On your last one, hold it out to the side and step it to the outside of your left leg and just start to rock. Yeah, it's important when focusing on relaxing your pelvic floor muscles that you have strong butt and glutes. So your pelvic floor doesn't have to compensate to become your main stabilizer. It definitely plays a part in stabilizing your spine, but we have big other muscle groups like your butt and your abs that need to work too, so those small pelvic floor muscles don't have to bear the brunt of the stabilization work. So including any kind of butt strengthening in your routine if you have a tight or overactive pelvic floor is going to be important. Good. We're going to pause in that forward position, rise up with control, and set up for our hip flexor stretch on our right side. So tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly in, squeeze your left heel towards your right knee, and then lunge forward until you feel the stretch in the front of the right hip. And just breathe into that. Right. I like to imagine that my breath is this healing force, which it's not really imagination, it really is. And I'm sending it to the areas where it's really tight. In yoga, your breath is called your pranayama, or your life force. And we can really use it as a three-dimensional way to expand our torso and get a real stretch into some muscles that not always feel it with traditional stretches. Make sure you breathe. You always want to prioritize breathing with any exercise you're doing. And now hold your breath. Perfect. Start to reach your right arm up and over for a deeper version of the stretch. Keep leaning your hips forward. Keep pulling your left heel energetically back. And breathe into any tight space you feel. For me right now, it's the front of my right hip. As we're stretching the front of your right hip with this pose, you're also using your glutes and your hip abductor muscles to stabilize. So it's a twofer. Good. Have to bring that arm back down and then sit back for your runner's lunge. Again, this is a great place to use blocks if you can't reach the floor. Just brings the floor to you. You drag your toes back towards you. Pull your left hip back, right hip forward in space. And breathe into the back of your leg, which is mainly where you should be feeling it in your calf, in your hamstring. It's a little sciatic nerve stretch too. If it's too much to flex your foot back, you can always let it relax. I like to make things really active though, and really stabilize as you stretch. Good. Maybe think about each inhale lengthening through your spine, each exhale folding a little bit deeper into the back of your leg. Prioritize the breath. When things get uncomfortable, we tend to stop breathing, which creates a whole cycle response in our nervous system. It flares up our sympathetic part of our nervous system, which in turn increases our pain levels. So we want to keep that parasympathetic nervous system in check and keep that relaxation response going. Good. Walk your hands inside your leg, swing it back in the tabletop. Cat-cow to reset. And then we're going to tuck our toes under, sit back into like kind of a modified child's pose. Look down between our hands, press back, leading with your butt, downward facing dog. I'm going to show you from the side. Now, some of us can do this with our knees straight. If you can't maintain a flat back, then bend your knees, and there's no shame in that. So bend your knees enough that your back is nice and flat. And then from there, you can start to work on slowly straightening your legs, but make sure your back is flat first. I'm gonna get back on my mat because I'm slipping. And from here, we're just gonna pedal out our feet one at a time, feeling a nice stretch in our calves, sending our chest down towards our thighs. Perfect. Find some stillness in your legs. Send your chest back towards your thighs. And then we're going to slowly, one step at a time, one handprint at a time, walk our hands back towards our feet until we're able to stand. And you're going to, once you're standing on your feet, you can grab opposite elbows. And keep your knees a little bit bent here. Let your chest kind of drape over your thighs and start to swing a little bit side to side. This is called ragdoll pose. And you're limp like a ragdoll. Take this opportunity, maybe play with your jaw, relax your face, let go of anything, any tension you're holding on to or gripping. Good. Good, let go of your arms. Start to roll up as slow as possible up to a stance. Roll out your shoulders. Beautiful. We're gonna walk out our feet a little wider apart. So slightly wider than hips width, maybe our max width apart. Turn our toes out to between, on one side, I like to say between 1 and 2 o'clock, and the other side between 10 and 11 o'clock. All right, once we're here, I like to do prayer hands with this pose. You're gonna put yourself in prayer hands, start to squat down as low as you can go. Notice my heels are all the way down on the floor. If that is not possible for you, not a big deal. You can always use yoga blocks or a little exercise ball under your butt and be floated up. So this is called Malasana or Yogi squat. And you're going to take your elbows here and push your knees apart. Then you're going to take your knees and push them towards your elbows. So you're creating resistance. They're fighting each other here. Once we're here and elbows are pressing out, knees are pressing in, we're going to concentrate on our breath and try to move the breath all the way down to your pelvic floor. So with each inhale, you're letting your pelvic floor drop down. Feel a drop, and then let it go. And exhale, it springs back up. You don't have to do anything to lift it back up. Inhale, let it drop down. Exhale, let it relax. Inhale, let it drop down. Exhale, let it relax. Perfect. Inhale, exhale. Start to plant your hands down on the floor. Lean forward, stand up, back to a forward fold. You can shake out your legs. You can do a little ragdoll because we're going to do that again. So when you're ready, hands plant down, turn your feet out. We're returning to this Malasana or Yogi squat, setting up our elbows, pressing our knees out. Good. This time we're going to plant our left hand down to the floor or block. Right hand comes up. We're going to twist open and then come back to your breath here. Inhale, you should feel the pelvic floor drop down. Exhale, relax it. You'll feel it spring back up. Inhale, descend. Exhale, relax. Perfect. Let's switch arms. Right hand plants down. Left hand reaches up. Back to that nice deep breath. If at any point this is too much, plant your hands and return back to your forward fold. Good. Let's do just another set on each side. Good. Switch arms again. 2 breaths here. Good. Left arm up, right hand down. 2 breaths here. Good. Plant your hands, lean forward, toes point forward. Beautiful. Back to your ragdoll. Put your hands on your shins. Inhale to a flat back from the side that looks like this. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, flat back. Shoulder blades squeeze together. Exhale, fold down. Now, stand back up with a flat back. Bring your hands together at the top. Exhale them down to your chest. This is mountain pose and the base of a lot of a yoga practice. So from here, let's walk our feet back in. Big toe mounts touching. Good. Now we're going to move through one vinyasa, or vinyasa just literally means flow. Now I'll walk you through a really beginner version of that. So we're going to so you know what, let's actually stop, walk to the front of our mat. We're going to inhale, our hands up. Exhale, we're going to fold flat back down to a nice flat back. Your hands are touching the ground. If they don't touch, bend your knees or do some yoga blocks. Then you're going to step back, 1 foot at a time. I'm going to do my right leg first and then my left leg. So you're in a plank. Then you're going to lower your knees to the ground. And then you're going to send your elbows behind you. So like a slow push up until you're in a little baby inchworm. And then you're going to slide your knees back. And just rest down on the ground for a second. Good. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Good. Walk your hands back so they're by your chest. Try to drive your pubic bone down into the ground. So you're activating your abs a little bit. And then lift up for a cobra. Exhale, back down. Tuck your toes under. Press up to a tabletop. Keep your toes tucked under. Press back, down dog. Good. Beautiful. We're going to start with our right leg. Lift it up and back. Then bring it through to a pigeon pose. Slide it back. Inhale. Exhale. Relax back down. And you're breathing into your hip. Lovely. Walk your hands back in. Tuck your toes under, press back. Downward facing dog. Left leg is going to go up this time. Swing it through. So your left ankle is heading towards your right wrist. And you're going to slide back for a pigeon pose on this side. Inhale and then exhale. Release everything back to the floor. And feel that big stretch in the outer left hip. And I'm going to leave you here today because my next patients are here. But after this, I would end where we started, into a little child's pose. And then if you want to end too in Shavasana on your back, just lying there and breathing, that's a beautiful way to end your practice. So to get out of this pigeon, I like to get out through a down dog. So I'm going to tuck my right foot under, walk my hands back in, and then just press back to a down dog. And from there, that's where you're going to take your child's pose to end your practice, or Shavasana on your back, corpse pose. I feel like everyone knows that one. All right. So give that little flow a try. It's a nice big stretch and relaxation for your pelvic floor. But remember that the number one stretch and way to relax your pelvic floor is through breathing. All right, namaste.